At the end of Friday the 13th Part 3, Jason Voorhees was dead. He took an axe to the head. Come on, he's dead. Nobody knew it at the time, but the studio behind Jason's film franchise were getting antsy. Producer Frank Mancuso Jr. was fine with Part 3 being the finale, but Part 3 made a lot of money. And the movie wasn't advertised as being the last ride, so why not cash in one more time, marketing Part 4 as the big send-off? Friday the 13th, the final chapter, would hit theaters 1 year after Part 3, and when those credits rolled, everybody knew it was officially over. The death of a legend, the end of an era. After we go into detail on the final chapter in today's video, we will also cover Friday the 13th Part 5 and Part 6. The final chapter, please. From Tommy Jarvis to the chocolate-loving Joey, from Jason Voorhees to Roy, and from ooh baby, to
fucked up again, you asshole.
We've got a ton to dig into today. Some say Parts 4 and 6 are the best in the entire franchise. Part 5, you either love it or hate it. Look, wherever you fall when it comes to Friday fandom, I appreciate you watching. Welcome to the history of Friday the 13th Part 2, finales, fakes, and facepalms. Every video here on 616 Entertainment is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos and podcasts, and more. Pro Wrestling Tees has the merch. As always, thank you for watching. Steve Miner, the director of both Friday the 13th Parts 2 and 3, told Crystal Lake Memories author Peter M. Brack, "The success of that series is making the same movie over and over again. I couldn't do it anymore." Obviously, we won't be looking at any stories of Mr. Miner in the director's chair today. The aforementioned Frank Mancuso Jr., longtime Paramount producer on board for every Friday outing up to this point, began to deeply resent the series. When every single professional meeting or conversation he took part in came back to Friday the 13th and Jason Voorhees, Mancuso felt disrespected. He felt pigeonholed. He felt like, really? Is this all I'm going to be remembered for? In Frank's eyes, Jason was a pain in the ass. The series was an anchor weighing him down, and he was ready to cut the chain and sail off to greener pastures, calling his involvement with the franchise a chore. It's funny to think about these things, right? I feel like I, myself, and probably any of you watching this video would be overjoyed to work on one of these films. Hell, even a film like it. But these guys, in the trenches, couldn't get away fast enough. Stacking money like Jason stacks bodies, and they're screaming, "Get me out of here!" Well, alright. With Jason's head now on the chopping block, there was only one man who could kill him. Tom Savini. What, did you think I was going to bring up a fictional character from the movie? No way. The makeup and effects legend, who initially exited the franchise after just the first movie, signed on for the final chapter specifically with Jason's death in mind.
But the idea of offering me the film where I get to kill Jason made me feel like Dr. Frankenstein. I created the monster, and I get to kill him.
Savini got the call from the man who would direct the film, Joseph Zito. The two had just worked on 1981's The Prowler together, and if you've never seen this movie, oh my goodness, is Tom Savini at his best here. How was the godfather of gore gonna put the Crystal Lake Killer to rest? Well, we'll get there. Hold your horses. Joseph Zito wasn't simply brought on to direct, he was also hired to write the film. Despite many conversations with the suits at Paramount revolving around the fact that Zito wasn't a writer, that he didn't want to write and actively pressured Paramount to hire someone else for the job, they were adamant that he was the guy for both roles, for some reason. Who knows? Probably laziness and looking for somebody else. One of my favorite pieces of the final chapter puzzle is that Zito eventually said, "Fine, you got it, I'll write it." Then he worked out a story with his writer friend Bruce, before handing off the outline they'd cooked up to Barney Cohen. All of this under the table, of course. Joseph Zito paid Barney out of his own contract and kept it all a secret from Paramount and the Writers Guild of America, who, when it came down to it, were not pleased with the situation. Look, we don't have to dig up this whole thing. I just find it funny. Paramount should have listened to Joe in the first place. They could have avoided this entire situation. But good for Joe Zito. Yeah, whatever, I'll handle it. And then he quietly pays his friend on the side to do the work. Good stuff. As you may have picked up by now, Friday the 13th isn't really a franchise that hangs its hat on plot. What we're looking at here, storyline-wise, is pretty much more of the same. We've got a few connections to the prior films and a couple characters that you might find interesting, but don't walk into the final chapter looking for any sort of revelation. You're not about to find out what causes the fake ending dream sequences. There will be no mention of Pamela Voorhees regrowing her head for the end of part 3, or how a woman who had never seen Pamela before was able to envision such a thing. Remember how Steve Miner said it doesn't matter if it makes sense? Just go with that. Let's take a look at the story of the final chapter. Jason Voorhees is dead, killed by Chris at the end of Friday the 13th part 3. The lights of the ambulances pervade the tall and haunting woods of Camp Crystal Lake. The corpse of the masked killer is loaded up and transported to the hospital, being prepared for treatment in the morgue. The man in charge of the operation is slightly distracted by a bizarre videotape and his lust for a coworker, but the situation is grim, all the same. It becomes much more grim when Jason springs to life and kills this dude with a goddamn hacksaw. Nurse Babaroni gets it too. There is a ton of cut-kill footage here that we'll dive into later, but man, the Motion Picture Association of America should be disbanded and sued in the court of law for throwing so much of Tom Savini's best work in the trash. But yeah, more on that later. Jason is back, and what does he do? He goes home to find more people hanging out on his stomping grounds. Again! Crispin Glover plays Jimmy, a guy obsessed with the accusation that he's a dead fuck, aka he can't please a woman in bed. Would you believe me if I told you this was the most consistent and revisited through line of this entire movie? Kimberly Beck plays Trish, our new lead. Corey Feldman steps in as Tommy Jarvis, her little brother. Eric Anderson plays Rob, a hiker who we eventually find out is the brother of Sandra from part 2. How about that? A little callback to the past. Finally, right? This is only the 4th movie, marketed as the last one. It's about time somebody with some connection to these events shows up in a sequel. As far as the plot is concerned, the overarching story, there isn't one. A new group of teenagers shows up to a cabin on Crystal Lake and Jason kills all of them. Rob is big and tough, and he's looking to avenge his sister, and he doesn't. Jason jobs him out just like he would anyone else. Trish and Tommy are the only ones left. And Tommy, after discovering a newspaper clipping earlier with an artist's depiction of Jason as a boy, recreates the image in order to trick Jason. If this sounds familiar, it's the exact same thing Ginny did in Friday the 13th Part 2. So how does Jason die? How about a machete to the head? As if having his skull split at the temple wasn't enough, falling onto and sliding down the blade is absolutely grotesque. What a finale. When Tommy notices Jason's fingers twitching, he goes berserk. It's like Mark Hamill going nuts on that Nazi in The Big Red One. Have you ever seen that? Anyway, in the aftermath, Trish is recovering in the hospital. When Tommy pays a visit, it becomes abundantly clear that this boy has changed. Ask yourself, if you saw this movie in 1984, would you have been satisfied with the conclusion? I was born in 1990. By the time I saw this movie, I was well aware of the fact that it was not actually the final chapter. So I cannot possibly answer the question. I will say, though, that despite stepping on the gas and rushing through one of the stories of these films once again, I'm not doing so because I can't wait to get to the finish line. There's just not a lot of story to tell. That doesn't change the fact, though, that Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is my favorite in the entire franchise. I really enjoy this entry, and I will get off camera right now to go into exactly why that is. First of all, Jason is awesome in Part 4. Blasting through the cabin door like the Kool-Aid Man? Amazing. Getting his hand sliced down the middle and just looking at it like, is top tier. His face is unbelievable, and it's at this moment that I will put over Ted White, the man underneath the hockey mask this time out. You won't find Ted's name in the credits, and that's not because the studio disrespected him. It's because he demanded they leave his name out of the credits, going as far as to tell Frank Mancuso Jr., listen, if I don't want my name on this piece of shit, leave it out. Ted butted heads with the director Joe Zito on myriad occasions, most notably over the scene where Samantha is killed in the inflatable boat. Judi Aronson, who played Samantha, was freezing her ass off, almost literally, seeing as though she's completely naked. She had requested they take a break multiple times. She had informed several people that she was so cold it hurt. And the director just hit her with the, yeah, hold on, you're doing great. Eventually, Ted White threatened to quit if Judi wasn't taken out of the water immediately. The interviews in the Crystal Lake Memories book confirm this altercation, with Joe Zito denying it ever happened, while Judi Aronson tells the exact same story that Ted White does. So, that's great. Excellent working environment, right? Up to this point, Ted White is my favorite Jason. So, even if he didn't want his name attached to this project immediately after filming it, or even while filming it, I'd like to give him his flowers. He acted as the stunt double for John Wayne for decades. He did the stunts for 1955's Revenge of the Creature. Come on, this dude's a legend. Rest in peace, dude. Moving away from Jason, let's get into Tommy Jarvis. Who the hell would have thought that the first ever recurring character, the first ever nemesis for Jason Voorhees, would be a little kid? Sorry, spoilers. Let's focus on the final chapter for now. Corey Feldman, basically at the very start of his career. We're talking pre-Gremlins, pre-Goonies, pre-Stand By Me. Kid was brand new on the scene, and he does a great job here. Tommy Jarvis is 12 years old. He's living every little boy's dream, in some sense. He's not only got an awesome collection of masks and weird creatures, but he makes them himself. Highly unrealistic, but it's a stupid movie, don't worry about it. Look at him playing Zaxxon on his TRX-80 color computer with that alien mask on. Are you kidding? I did weird stuff like this constantly at his age. I thought Tommy Jarvis was cool as hell. His creation of these masks is indeed an ode to Tom Savini. Tommy Jarvis? Hello? It's a nice little nod. Speaking of the two of them together, man, Tom Savini did not always have the machete skull split finish in mind. At one point, he pitched the studio on, look, Tommy Jarvis is a crafty little kid, right? He's an inventor. What if he retrofitted a microwave oven into a laser gun of sorts? He had this image in his mind where early on we would see Tommy point the gun at like a little toy army man, and he would set the power to 1 and he'd pull the trigger and the army man would melt. The finish would see Jason going after Trish. Tommy comes downstairs with the gun, he cranks that thing up to 10, he pulls the trigger, and Jason's head pops like a watermelon. Dude, that would have been awesome. And while we're on the topic, let's get into all of the gore that had to be cut out. I can't wait any longer. The Friday the 13th Blu-ray box set contains so much footage, cut content that was thought to be lost for years, and amongst this footage is all of the gore that the MPAA demanded be removed. Jason's death, my God, this is so insane, it's almost unbelievable. Look at all of that blood, man, holy shit. The hospital hacksaw, complete with a 180-degree breaking of the neck, it's out of control. The amount of time that they wanted to stay on the writhing, screaming pain of the victims is ridiculous. And it was ridiculous on purpose. Joe Zito said they started out submitting cuts that he knew for a fact were not gonna get a pass, and they would make the smallest and slightest cuts he possibly could, over and over, until the MPAA allowed it to run nationwide. That's a clever director, right there. And again, for the YouTube audience, I'm sorry that I can't show it for you here. It's totally out of my control, but here's what I will say. All of the footage that I'm pulling is from the Friday the 13th Blu-ray box set. Go ahead and throw that thing in your cart and just be patient. It retails for about $150, but I said be patient because it goes on sale all the time. I got mine in 2022 for $79. That is a steal. And yes, I was planning on doing this series all the way back in August of 2022. I nearly did this last year, but instead I went for the history of UFC video games. If you haven't watched that yet, I highly recommend you do, because I think you'll enjoy it. What you might not enjoy are some of the things that we're going to dive into right now. Writer Barney Cohen had an idea for Jason's death to come seconds after he grabbed Trish and started rubbing on her titties. He got a kick out of the idea that, in his words, Jason finally found something to do with these girls other than killing them, and that distraction leads to his demise. Joe Zito said no. Hard no. Nobody wants to see Jason become human. Nobody wants to see Jason become, as Barney Cohen described him, somewhat sympathetic. He's Jason. No. That's it. Good call. Another good call comes in with yet another dream sequence ending being dropped. Round of applause, man. Wow! Somehow, some way, a Friday the 13th director resisted the urge to close the show with a throwaway dream. This was another piece of once thought lost content discovered and released on the Blu-ray set. Trish's mom is zombified or something, and Jason strikes. It's a cool visual, but this doesn't exactly scream final chapter, does it? Friday the 13th, the final chapter, released on April 13th, 1984. If you're keeping score, this is 4 years in a row, like clockwork, that a Friday the 13th film hit theaters. This release schedule is extremely impressive in hindsight. On a budget of $2.2 million, the final chapter pulled in $33 million at the worldwide box office. Just barely behind the earnings of Part 3, and still a massively profitable picture. Critics hated it. I almost feel like there's no point even mentioning this anymore, because critics always shit on Friday the 13th. But forget the critics. What did you think? Personally, if I'm going to recommend a movie in this series, if somebody comes to me and they say, which Friday the 13th should I watch? I'm going with Part 4. It's the perfect recommendation because the kills are great. The characters are fun. It doesn't matter if you've never seen 1, 2, or 3 because there's barely a story in the first place. With the final chapter written in the book of Friday the 13th, it was time to lay the series to rest. Right? Wrong. Just 1 year later. Yeah, they didn't even take a break. 1 year later in 1985, Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, would hit the big screen. How exactly do you follow up the best film in the Friday the 13th franchise yet? How about with the worst film in the Friday the 13th franchise yet? Oh my god.
And they're all crazy!
You tell him off!
I'll just go help somebody else instead. I'll see you later. Gotta take a crap. Crap my ass!
You'll feel a lot better after you shit.
Look, if you're a huge fan of Part 5 and you cannot handle fair criticism, either skip this portion of the video or turn it off entirely, because I am not about to pretend that this movie is any good, because it's not. And I'm not the only person who feels that way. Producer Frank Mancuso Jr., the guy who wanted to close the series out with Part 4, the guy who was far less involved after Part 4, still, to this day, calls Part 5 his least favorite in the entire franchise. Dick Wiand, the actor who plays Roy, and hold on, we'll get to the characters in a second, said, "I didn't know until I saw Part 5 what a piece of trash it really was." So it's not just me, guys. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. So what went wrong? How did this happen? Well, Joe Zito has admitted that the ending of Part 4, with Corey Feldman looking all crazy, there was a part of him that hoped that Paramount might call him and say, "Hey Joe, what do you think about a Part 5? Maybe Part 6? There's still meat on this bone." Well, Paramount never called Joe. Instead, they chose Danny Steinman as the director for Part 5. Steinman's career kicked off with High Rise, a film that some might call hardcore. And when you watch A New Beginning, you can tell exactly what background he's from. Not that I can show any of it here on YouTube, hell, I can't even blur it out, that's how strict they are with nudity. But Friday the 13th Part 5 features the most gratuitous, pointless nudity yet in the entire series. Now don't get me wrong, I'm a heterosexual man who enjoys female nudity quite a bit. But this isn't one of those movies. This isn't a tasteful photo shoot or anything like that. It's a horror movie. And when your actresses, like Rebecca Wood, who plays Tina, says her topless scene was unscripted and pushed on her the day of the shoot, it's a bit uncomfortable. These are real people, young actresses who don't really realize that they can say no, and some of what you see here in Part 5, it kind of crosses the line of skeeziness, especially if you know the background. None of the actors auditioning for this movie even knew what it was. You see, during the casting process and pre-production, the film was codenamed Repetition. John Shepard, who plays Tommy Jarvis, we'll get there, hold on, went and volunteered at a mental hospital for months to prepare for this film. He was coming up with all these backstories for his character to add depth to the performance, and when he found out what it was that he'd landed, he was torn on whether or not he should even keep the job. To say A New Beginning was plagued by production issues might be accurate. But it wasn't due to technical difficulties or outside interference as much as it was the cocaine on set and the complete lack of overall direction. So that's a lot of information before we even dive into the story, but yeah, it is what it is. Friday the 13th Part 5 doesn't just suck as a movie, but it was a fairly negative experience for many of the people involved with the project. But let's do it. Let's get into the plot of A New Beginning, because there was an attempt at a story here. We've got our first recurring character, and listen, some might even say that this was an attempt at evolution. Tommy Jarvis, in a thunderstorm, waltzes out to the graveyard to get a look at Jason's grave for some reason. Before he can do anything, who knows what he was going to do anyway, two knuckleheads show up with shovels to, in their words, get a look at the main man. They dig Jason up, Jason kills them, and then he turns his attention to Tommy Jarvis, the boy who put him in that grave in the first place. As the kill shot lands, whoops, it was all a dream. Hey, Joe Zito resisted the Friday pattern of ending Part 4 with a dream, so Danny Steinman opens Part 5 with a dream. 5 years have passed. Tommy Jarvis is now like 30 years old. Well, he looks that way. This character is only supposed to be 17. To be clear, John Shepard was legit 25 here, so oh boy. Tommy Jarvis has spent time in myriad mental health facilities, and now he's transported to Pinehurst, a halfway house, where he'll hopefully be able to re-assimilate into polite society. But that's gonna be easier said than done. The other kids at Pinehurst are basically just the new camp counselors. The useless boning couple, the loner, the annoying guy, blah blah blah. Joey, the annoying guy, Literally has candy bars coming out of every fucking pocket on his outfit. It's so cartoonish, I can't even believe it. And speaking of cartoonish...
Piss off.
If that's how you feel, forget it.
Get lost.
Come on, don't be like that. Want a bite? Here, you can have it. Well, if that's the way you feel, forget it, Vic.
No, that was not a dream sequence. That really happened. This random guy that we have never seen before and will never see again, by the way, just killed somebody in as brutal a fashion as Jason ever did. To say that it comes out of nowhere would be an understatement. Oh boy. The idea here, according to the director, was to follow Tommy Jarvis through his struggles. And I mean, we do see him have hallucinations here and there, but if you watch the movie, this is way in the background. There's a scene where two guys are dealing with their broken down car.
Either you got the car started or you're a dead man. A rat-a-tat-a-tat-a-tat-too. Fucked up again, it ain't starting. I'm gonna kick your ass, kick your ass. Rudy-doody-doody-doody. Rat-a-tat-a-tat-a-tat-too. Fix the fucking car. Fucked up again, you asshole.
Both of them are killed and we never see them again. Later on, we meet these two people at a diner. Both are killed and we never see them again. We see this little guy, Reggie, go and visit his brother and his girlfriend. The brother and the girlfriend are both killed in the same scene, and we never see them again. A New Beginning has all of these characters at Pinehurst, none of which have anything to do. And if you pay attention, every new scene introduces new characters. It's a mess. I guess this film being a total shit show was good for something, as we did get these memorable pieces of dialogue.
Ooh, baby. Hey, baby.
Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Now you're gonna get it, bitch.
Morning, Ethel. My, don't you look lovely today?
Poor shit.
Jesus, man, can't you do anything? Stop screwing around.
You don't set a place for a dead person.
Gotta take a crap. Crap my ass.
Who the fuck are you? What the fuck do you want?
The film's editor, Bruce Green, stated that Friday 5 would have been a better movie if we spent more time with the core characters and built them along the way. But director Danny Steinman, and I'm quoting Bruce here, had no interest in that. We can tell. Jason is killing people, he looks a little weird, the mask is blue. At the end, it's Reggie and Pam going to war with the Crystal Lake Killer for like 15 minutes. Tommy Jarvis eventually shows up. This entire movie was supposed to be a continuation of Tommy versus Jason, and Tommy's had nothing to do with this final showdown. I'm being serious. He beat up a mentally challenged guy and has been off camera for half an hour before he shows up at the end here. Tommy is a complete afterthought. When it comes down to it, Jason bumps off a barn and is killed, impaled on a bed of spikes. And that's when we see that this isn't Jason Voorhees after all. It's... Wait, who the fuck is that? Yeah, that's how most people felt when they saw this movie for the first time. Who is that guy? It turns out this is Roy, the ambulance driver from earlier in the movie. Joey, the kid killed with the axe, was his secret son. Seeing his boy killed made him snap, so he pretended to be Jason Voorhees. Look, the biggest problem with the reveal is that the most recognizable characteristic of Dick Wiand, the actor playing Roy, were his piercing blue eyes. When he's dead on the spikes, his goddamn eyes are closed! Why? What a total fuck up. Anyway, Pam visits Tommy and he kills her! Just kidding, it was a dream. That's when the real deal, I'm talking shoot Jason Voorhees, shows up in Tommy's room. Just kidding, it was a hallucination. Tommy gets out of bed and has Roy's mask? Why does he have this stuff? When he hears Pam coming, he dives out the window. Just kidding. Tommy puts the mask on and seemingly kills Pam. What a mess, man. What a mess. John Shepard, Tommy Jarvis, he says he came up with the idea for Tommy to put the mask on and come from behind the door. He came up with that on the spot. And Danny Steinman not only liked it, he not only shot it, but he used it in the movie on top of what feels like 2 other endings. So if that entire ending sequence feels like there are 5 things being thrown at you, it's because there are 5 things being thrown at you. I personally find Part 5 to be borderline unwatchable. This movie is so annoying, and I don't know what it is about 5s. This movie sucks. Halloween 5 is one of the biggest pieces of shit I've ever seen in my life. I viscerally hate that movie. A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5 sucks. Are there any good 5s? Can you think of one good 5? Let me know down in the comments. And now we will look at some bizarre decisions that they made here in Friday the 13th Part 5. First of all, I find it funny how John Shepard struggles to close this pocket knife. Why not just do a second, smoother take? The Ooh Baby song wasn't even in the script. It was an ad-lib, and it gets damn near an entire minute of screen time. This is so ridiculous and pointless that I feel like I'm watching Tim and Eric.
Ooh, baby. Hey, baby.
Ooh, baby, ooh, baby.
Hey, baby.
Ooh, baby.
Hey, baby.
I sit down when I pee. There's nothing that crazy about me.
Ooh, baby, ooh, baby.
Mark Venturini, the actor who kills Joey with the axe, was hilarious in Return of the Living Dead. Here in A New Beginning, how did no one on set point out that this isn't how you chop wood? You do it like this. He hits this goddamn log like 100 times and creates no further damage in it. It's unbelievably stupid looking. The 2 hillbillies, who offer nothing of note to the plot, so I haven't even mentioned them, are so cartoonish that you will question what it is that you're watching.
I'm gonna blow your fucking brains out. You hear me? Would you shut the fuck up?
They hurt me, Mom! They hurt me! You hurt me, Mom!
I get a kick out of them wanting Pinehurst shut down because these kids are drug addicts. But when someone is literally murdered, they don't use this as part of their case in closing the facility up. They don't even mention the murder. If you're wondering why Corey Feldman appears in the film for like 5 minutes, it's because he was working on the Goonies. There was simply no time or access to him. His opening scene was actually shot in his own backyard with 1 camera and a sprinkler to fake the rain. Corey Feldman, maybe you're lucky you avoided this pile of garbage. There's barely any violence in this film. It should go without saying that Tom Savini is gone again. And while the MPAA did drastically tone down a few kills, director Danny Steinman blames himself for the movie being largely bloodless. He was more concerned with the nudity, after all, claiming he shot a fucking porno in the woods out there. You wouldn't believe the nudity they cut out. Priorities, right? Oh my god. Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, was panned by critics, obviously. On a $2.2 million budget, once again, the film drew $21.9 million in its theatrical run. That's way down from the final chapter, but at the end of the day, it's still 10 times the movie's budget, making it extremely profitable. The actor playing Roy hated the movie. Frank Mancuso Jr. hates this movie. Editor Bruce Green hates this movie to the point that he had no idea what to do with the dailies presented to him. I hate this movie. Where do you fall on Part 5? Let me know in the comments. It's totally fair to wonder why another Friday film was even made after the final chapter, and I mean, the answer is obvious, really. Frank Mancuso Sr. stated, quite simply, the public still wanted to see these films. So until they stopped really coming, why not continue to make more? And sure, that does make sense. But nobody forced you to call the last one the final chapter. Your son wanted to do that. He was the only one. If you wanted to keep going, just keep going. But that would have required a game plan or a roadmap, and as we know, Friday the 13th has never, ever had such a thing in place. With an imposter Jason rejected by both fans and critics alike, there was only one thing left to do: go back to basics. The very next year, because yes, we are still on this schedule, the 6th installment would arrive. This time it was kill or be killed. And I mean, it's always kill or be killed, and up to this point the stars of the movie have like a 5-1 record against Jason Voorhees, but that's the tagline of the movie. I didn't book it. The 6th installment in the Friday the 13th franchise was presented to up-and-coming director Tom McLoughlin, an Emmy-nominated comedy writer. Tom felt that if there was going to be yet another Jason movie, it needed to be different. In his own words, it needed a wink. Frank Mancuso Jr. felt that as long as McLoughlin didn't make Jason the butt of the jokes, it was fine. It was with this decision that Friday the 13th changed forever.
Some folks have a strange idea of entertainment.
Dumb broad! She should have stayed in the kitchen where she belongs!
Does he think I'm a farthead?
Part 6 is often looked at as one of the best, if not the best film in the entire franchise by many fans and critics. Now listen, I have never been in that camp. For the longest time, I actually didn't like this movie at all. I struggled with how stupid it is for years and years. In watching it again for this series, watching it multiple times actually, in doing all of the research, I can say now, I respect Part 6 more than I ever have, and I can say now that I get it. For the longest time, I didn't get it. I did not understand the sharp right turn into such comedic territory. I don't like when Michael Myers and Halloween are stupid. I don't like when Freddy Krueger and A Nightmare on Elm Street are stupid. And I don't really get down with it here. It's a me problem. I recognize that. Now, is Part 6 a bad movie? No. Part 5 was a bad movie. Part 6 is just stupid. And as you will come to know as I get into the details, that's exactly what the director was going for. So now, let's dive into the story of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Tommy Jarvis and a friend head to the graveyard to dig up the corpse of Jason Voorhees. Wait, isn't this exactly how Part 5 opened? Yeah, pretty much. Except Tommy is older now and has become one of the dopes that he was watching back then. They start to dig and... Wait a second, I thought Tommy became the new killer. He put Roy's mask on and killed Pam, right? Well, guess what? Part 5 never happened. Ask Tom McLoughlin, the writer and director. He'll tell you he completely disregarded the 5th movie in writing the 6th. So anyone in the comments who was giving me shit for being so down on A New Beginning, delete your comment. And thank you for writing in. So anyway, they start digging. Tommy and... Wait a second, is this a 3rd new actor playing Tommy Jarvis? Yes, it is. Our new guy is Tom Matthews, another Return of the Living Dead veteran.
It worked in the movie! Well, it ain't working now, Frank.
We're in the movie line? No way, you gotta listen to me. I tried to destroy him, but I fucked up.
You got that right, punk.
Anyway, they start digging. I'm gonna finish it this time. Tommy and his friend, and they pop open the casket. Tommy intends to cremate the remains of Jason, despite the fact that he's clearly dead already. Lightning strikes, and whoops! He's back! Sorry to interrupt so soon, but just for the record, Tommy Jarvis killed Jason at the end of the final chapter. Jason is dead. Jason has been dead. He has been buried underground for at least 6 years. It was over. Attempting to dig Jason up and having the lightning strike, whatever the hell that was that he stuck in Jason's chest that brought him back to life. Let the record show that every single drop of blood, the 100 plus people who will be killed from now until the end of the franchise, all of this blood is on Tommy Jarvis's hands. It is entirely his fault. It was over. If Tommy could have left well enough alone, none of these people would have died. What a hero that is. What a top babyface, right? So Jason's back. He's headed home, and wouldn't you know it, there's a new set of counselors ready to kick off the summer in Forest Green. Yeah, Crystal Lake has changed its name. They're trying to move on from their blood-soaked past. Again, thanks, Tommy. Tommy runs to the sheriff for help and gets locked up, because obviously, he sounds insane. These new counselors are picked off. Jason even clears out a group of idiotic middle-aged paintballers on his way home. He kills 2 people inside a speeding RV while he's inside of it, and it crashes like something you'd see in a Tom Cruise movie. Then he crawls out the top like, well, that was awesome. Not only is Part 6 purposely funny, it's the first time, in my mind, that Jason was the star. People always say, oh, Friday the 13th is different because you root for Jason in those movies. I don't think that was true until Part 6. He's an action star now. Tommy and Megan, the sheriff's daughter, hit it off. She busts him out of prison so they can put Jason down for good. And in the end, Tommy cooks up a plan to anchor Jason to the bottom of Crystal Lake. He nearly dies trying to pull it off, but Megan, with the help of the boat's motor, saves the day. After a trilogy of showdowns, Tommy Jarvis officially holds a record of 3-0 over Jason Voorhees. Or maybe 2-0 if we're going with the Part 5 never happened deal. Either way, who cares? Jason is dead. Just kidding, no he isn't. He's just wet. And there you have it, Friday the 13th Part 6. Jason Lives. This movie is a different animal. And I came into this section of the video expecting to be really harsh because for the longest time, I was the odd man out. This movie just didn't do it for me. But I have to say, I'm starting to see it. I am coming around big time. Is Part 6 my favorite now? No. I'm a Part 4 guy, and believe it or not, there are later installments that I would actually put above Part 6, but we'll get there. Don't worry, don't worry. But on top of sharing my newfound appreciation for this movie, I'd like to zoom in on some of the coolest aspects of the film in general. First and foremost, the opening scene is the best part of the movie. The graveyard set looks like a classic Universal monster movie brought into the mid-80s, and that was by design. The makeup on Jason when he's exhumed and he first gets up, holy shit! Holy shit, this looks awesome! Several of the kills are cartoonishly stupid, with the reason behind them being, once again, director Tom McLaughlin. As a man who takes his religion seriously, he felt a bit of back and forth with being involved with Friday the 13th in general. He questioned the morality of presenting these stabbings and shootings to audiences. You know, the types of violent actions that normal people could recreate. So the head being pushed through the wall, the smiley face on the tree, the sheriff's back being folded in half, these kills are heightened on purpose. I'll even throw in Jason's death here. All he'd have to do is duck his head a little bit. There's nothing keeping him at the bottom of the lake at all. That chain isn't tightly wrapped around his neck in the slightest. But that's Tom McLaughlin. His fingerprints are all over this movie. Literally, in this case, as those are his hands on the casket. How do you like that? I haven't really mentioned it yet, somehow, but yeah, Jason is officially a zombie now. Undead. Back from the grave. Call it whatever you like. This isn't just some special needs hillbilly anymore. Another major turning point for the series. This is the first time we see him doing extremely supernatural things as well. Like needing only a couple seconds to spring up after taking multiple point-blank shotgun blasts. Even a bullet to the brain now, and he doesn't even bump. Jason was played by Dan Bradley and CJ Graham this time out. Yes, once again, two different actors. In the paintball scene, that's Dan Bradley. Frank Mancuso Jr. saw the dailies for this scene and immediately called the director to say, "You need a new Jason. He doesn't look right." So Bradley was out and CJ was in. CJ Graham wasn't an actor. He wasn't a stunt man. He was just a big-ass Marine who happened to know somebody. It's funny how things work sometimes, right? I think CJ Graham brings a totally different look and feel to Jason. He's faster, he's more agile, he's more accurate. It's a new age. Jason's zombie era has begun. Screw it. Act different, right? I mean, the movie literally opens with Jason doing a James Bond knockoff introduction, which, again, the first time I saw this movie, I was like, what the fuck did they do to Friday the 13th? But whatever. You know what's funny? The blood pouring on the title reveal, that's not CGI, it's milk. They played with the colors in post to turn it red, but yeah, that's literally milk being poured over a pane of glass. That's old school movie magic, man. Oh, I love it. So there you go, a heaping handful of compliments. Compliments that I don't think I had in my heart before I started working on this series, so every minute that goes by, I'm warming up more and more to part 6. But that doesn't mean I have forgotten everything that I don't appreciate. No. We gotta dive into the dumbest parts of this movie. We just have to, okay? Let me get this out of the way. The ending sucks. Jason being at the bottom of Crystal Lake is a cool idea. I don't mean the concept is bad. I'm talking about the final shot. Jason's down there and we see his eye is still open. He's not dead. This is nothing. This is as nothing as it gets. It might as well be the finish to Halloween Resurrection where Michael's dead and burned and then, oh, he's not dead. It's garbage. I've already mentioned the James Bond intro. It's hard for me to see Jason doing this, but hey, I didn't book it. It's just not what I want. I love when Tommy tells Megan,
"Get back to the cabin with the kids!"
She runs to the cabin and Tommy yells,
"Megan, no!"
It happens so fast. It's like, what changed? Tommy's sitting in the boat with the chain practically fishing for Jason is an outrageously idiotic visual. This dude, all he's doing is driving an RV, and he's talking like he's blasting through space and time.
Go! Ah! Woo! Well, this baby jam. Let me tell you, for a big truck, it's not bad at all. Woo! This is great. I like this. This is great. Ooh, that sounds great.
Keep in mind, seconds prior, he was banging this girl and complaining that she wanted to keep banging. Oh boy. I'll cut my complaints right there. I think I had enough bitching in part 5. But I'm not the only one who made cuts. The MPAA, once again, brought their machetes to a Friday the 13th film. This time requiring a total of 9 back and forth submissions before finally granting approval. I don't even really get it with Jason Lives. These kills are so tame. Even looking at the uncut footage on the Blu-ray set, the only cuts were just like lingering on a beating heart. There's no nudity here in the film, nor was there any nudity in the script. Sometimes it seems like people just need to justify their jobs, you know? What's funny is that, in Frank Mancuso Jr.'s eyes, Part 6's problem wasn't too much violence. It was that there wasn't enough violence. The cemetery caretaker and the random couple that we see once and then they're killed a second later, those were reshoots, forced into the picture by Mancuso. Both feel unnecessary, in my opinion. Let me get your take on this. This one is a little weird. Tom McLaughlin's original ending to Part 6 included the introduction of Jason's dad. That's just a big hanging thing out there. We know Jason's mom, right? Who was Mr. Voorhees? On the Blu-ray set, there's an animation to represent the scene he would have shot. It's a little Halloween 5-ish, a little Man in Blackish, because it would have been left wide open for whoever picked up the pencil for Part 7, but yeah, it was there. Jason's dad. What do you think? Good idea to cut it? Unfortunate missed opportunity? Let me know down in the comments. Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, had the highest budget yet, and unfortunately, it also drew the lowest box office yet, coming in at $19.5 million worldwide. Despite actually receiving a little bit of critical love, with several reviewers enjoying that Part 6 wasn't afraid to be in on the joke, the hanging specter of Part 5 remained. Moviegoers hated Part 5. Both of our leads, Tom Matthews and Jennifer Cook, nearly passed on Part 6 because of how bad Part 5 was. It may be true that Jason Lives, but with the box office results continually shrinking with every new installment, the series had never been on shakier ground. Part 4 made me love these movies. Part 5 made me hate them. And Part 6, for decades, had me going, oh boy. I'm happy to have turned the page on Jason Lives, though. It just goes to show that it's never too late to change your mind. It's never too late to make new discoveries. I'm in my mid-30s, for fuck's sake, and just now, today, I'm going, oh, I get it. That's the magic, man. The magic of Friday the 13th. That's it! Thank you so much for watching this, the history of Friday the 13th, Part 2, finales, fakes, and face palms. Next time we go even further off the deep end with the history of Friday the 13th, Part 3, New Blood and New York. And hey, I'm also releasing the history of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater concurrently to this one. So if you're a video game fan the way you are a movie fan, you might want to give that a look. I write, shoot, edit, produce, direct, upload all these videos myself. I'm a one-man crew. So if you want to support me, you can over on patreon.com/616entertainment. Not only will you be unlocking a ton of exclusive videos and podcasts and get early access, you'll be pushing us further to all these sweet goals that you see on the screen right now. I could really use you in my corner, so give it some thought if you so desire. Until next time, I love ya, and I will see you soon.